Hello, everybody out there in comic book land. You're not here for a recap. You're not here for a review. You can only be here for one reason: major previews, where we get to look into the solicitations. We get to open our third eye and look into the future and find out what's going to be the latest and greatest things to come to comic books. I am joined, as always, by the delightful Alex Garcia, aka the comic OG, the Cog himself. Alex, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic because we are talking comics, and May is looking like it's gonna be May because
Yes.
it's kicking off. It's kicking off, and it's already kicked off. And I'm excited to talk about these books because there's a lot of things coming from all over the place, as
Yeah.
well as the comic book Easter free comic book day.
My God, they have risen. Those comics have risen. No,
Oh.
as you guys know, my name is George Serrano, aka the Don, and we do this each and every week. We look through the solicitations and try to give you guys our thoughts on what issues are going to be the hot topics out there in the comic book world, as well as kind of doing a Russian roulette of sorts and kind of just picking some books on the feel, on the vibes. This is a vibe check kind of situation going on here. So this episode will be tackling the May solicitations, and as you were just saying, fans are eating right now, as the kids say out there in these worlds when it comes to all these stories going on. To the point that it's kind of crazy that this is the fifth episode of previews. Like it's like with the way the year has just kind of gone off in a snap, and with so much to cover, so much to read. Um, I think this is how I'm gonna live life now. I'm just gonna go from previews episodes and previews episodes, right? I guess that's how majority of people getting through nowadays, right? Just from content to content. But yeah, there's tons of stuff here I'm excited for. But I was wondering if you mind going first this time as you pick your five
Oh,
picks
you are
for the
ever the
month of May.
gentleman, sir. You are ever the gentleman, sir.
I mean,
And
I
just
owe
as
you.
we,
Last month I called this major issue, so I owe I owe you. I owe the fans.
it's all good.
We're doing it.
It's all
We're
good.
doing it right this time.
Hey, and we're learning too sweet, baby. We're learning because look, even I made a big mistake. I had Blood Hunt #1 being my pick for April, one of my picks for
Right.
April, but it technically came out May 1st. Damn you previews. Damn your previews.
Right. Well, it just
Yeah,
shows how ahead of the game you are. You're 2 months ahead of the
That's
game.
it. I'm just trying to keep you guys focused so you know what's to come. Because one day you hear about it, and next you know it's here, and you miss the day. And a book
Yeah.
like that is selling like hotcakes. Blood Hunt #1, it's already out, guys, May 1st. I already made it a pick from April. It basically is April. It's the first it's the first of the month.
Yeah.
So go pick it up. It's a great book, and make sure you pick up the Red Band trailer if you're 18 over, because it really really gets visceral in that. But speaking of visceral, and speaking of just getting after it, my #1 pick for this month is a book called Get Fury, and it's
Get
done by
Fury.
Garth. Yeah, done by Garth Enix and Jason Burrows. If you miss classic Punisher, if you miss classic Nick Fury, this is the book for you. And it's done by the legendary Garth Ennis. Everybody knows Garth Ennis right now because who isn't watching The Boys, right?
Right.
His also from his legendary work on Preacher, and just and his Punisher work in general. He's done many Punisher books in the past, and here he has a chance to do almost like a sequel to, if you've ever read Punisher Born.
Right.
Familiar with it?
Hmm.
Where this takes place like right after or kind of during the Vietnam War, where what happens is Nick Fury, classic Nick Fury, gets captured, but the Viet Cong doesn't realize who he is because, of course, my man's a man of mystery, right? It's like the James Bond of the Marvel universe. But he gets
Right.
captured. They don't realize what they have on their hands. They're just looking at like, oh, we got a nice juicy POW over here. But the United States military knows what they got on their hands. And they're like, look, before he can spill his guts about all the secrets that he knows, Frank, go get rid of him. If you can't save him, which honestly, that's too much of a job in of itself, man. Just put a bullet in his head from 300 yards and end his existence. So here we have, Frank going to kill Nick Fury. And in the
Right.
meantime, Nick, I guarantee you, Nick knows, look, I'm too valuable and they're not going to save me. So it's going to end up between a confrontation as well as him trying to just save himself because
Right.
he's like, I can't, they're not coming to save me. They're going to eliminate they're going to napalm, they're going to Agent Orange the hell out of this area right here
Right.
because I'm too valuable to even try to save. I'm just going to get rid of me. So you're about to get a great Nick Fury versus Frank Castle story done by Garth Ennis, where you're going to see some gnarly stuff. It's going to be gross. It's going to be nasty. I've already seen a panel or two where the Viet Cong like cut a guy's face off, but from
Bisect a
yeah,
man's
yeah,
head.
but from the side, and
Yeah.
it's gruesome. It's you want to read something juicy and tantalizing. Here you go.
That's an incredible visceral war. I mean, when you think of some of the things with torture and some of the stuff that we've done out there in the jungle, I mean, we were not prepared for some of that guerrilla warfare
Nope.
that was going on there. It also feels like a minute since we've got a good definitive Fury story. I feel we covered here Secret Wars. War? Secret War. Nick Fury Secret
Secret
War.
War.
Secret War. He had a lot to do with, let's say, Original Sin, stuff like that. But I always like when they take it back to a period piece, when they take it back to, this kind of era stuff.
Yeah,
And yeah, come on, man. Garth Ennis being tapped for this. This is right there with him. And we just covered on major issues, Iron Man Rise of Technovore, and Punisher shows up in that. And I just love whenever Punisher shows up, and it's just well known that he's an absolute psychopath, but we need him for the job. Like that's the
that's it.
trope, right? It's like no one wants to be this man's friend. They don't want to sit next to him in the theater, but if they need somebody captured, killed, or restrained, they call on Frank, and they're not proud of it, but he's the one who gets it done. Um, I want it just screams that it's going to lead to a confrontation. That the two of them
Yeah.
are gonna, and
Oh
then
yeah.
who gets out of that unscathed, sets up a hell of a
Exactly.
dichotomy
Exactly.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like I said, if you're we haven't had Frank Castle Punisher in probably almost a year now, and we haven't had Nick Fury, classic Nick Fury, in years.
Yeah.
He was put away after Original Sin. I
Hmm.
think he just kind of came back in the pages of Fantastic Four, if I'm not mistaken. It was something they recently released. He's kind of back, but not
Okay.
really. But it's been years since we've seen classic Nick Fury. So this is kind of like, ooh, I miss these characters. Let's see how they do it. And but like you said, this isn't a Punisher story. This is a Frank Castle story. So this is like the making of the psychopath. This is when
Yeah.
they were happy to employ him. Like, hey,
I was about to say this
military.
when he got paid to do this stuff. It wasn't just a
Yeah, yeah,
freelance.
yeah. Exactly. So I recommend it. I recommend it. Garth Ennis, Punisher, Nick Fury. Let's go. What do you got, Don? What's your number one pick?
I was checking real quick, 'cause I thought Nick Fury might have died, but this man is the life model decoy. He's the
Oh yeah.
spokesperson for it.
Nick
Um,
Fury has died a few times. Actually, I think the most famous death was Punisher killed him one time.
yeah. And one of the things I love about Nick Fury in general is even though now we have sort of like the Matrix clad Nick Fury with the the long black leather coat and the eye
Hmm.
patch, the Sam Jackson Nick Fury, that Shield Nick Fury with the big white boots and the big white
Oh yeah,
gloves,
yeah.
classic, classic
The big blue shirt with of course the
straps.
90s the pockets
Yep,
everywhere,
yep,
and there's just smoking a cigar with the eye patch,
yeah.
always looking like he's one step ahead, and you're probably dealing with a life model decoy.
I wonder if we're ever gonna get that suit in live action. Probably not. But how? If you would have asked me a couple of years ago if we would have gotten the blue and yellow Wolverine suit in live action, I would have told you probably not either. But seemingly we're getting that in Deadpool 3, and that's all anyone's talking about. So you know what my number one pick is. My number one pick is Deadpool Wolverine World War 3 #1.
I thought you were gonna
Marvel's
say My Little
cashing in.
Pony.
I was close. Marvel, Marvel is cashing in. They know exactly what they're doing with this. Yeah, it's written by Joe Kelly, art by Andy Kubert, legends in the game.
Hmm.
Um, the synopsis is the most intensely mismatched team up in comics and pop culture, the best there is, and the Merc with the Mouth, undergoes a radical change as we kick off a three-part globe-spanning saga for the ages. The mysterious Delta believes in change. Change is good, but as he sets his sights on Deadpool and Wolverine is caught up in the plot. Is the third time really the charm or the curse? Um, this is good. I've always liked the dichotomy of these two. They're, this is the buddy cop. It's quite funny that we're finally getting it because it's gone on for at least a decade and change in comic books. This idea that Wade, like Wolverine is all dour, right? Like that's his whole character. Like, I can't remember, can't remember
Can't remember
anything, and
nothing.
and you can hurt me, but you can't kill me. Like it's all that, and Wade is all that, but just flipped on its head. He's a literal walking joke.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see these two characters kind of play off of one another, both in this miniseries and in Deadpool 3. And you got to believe that this is supposed to be a bit of a breadcrumb trail to that kind of stuff. This will introduce a whole host of people to these characters before we get to see them in live action. And again, like I like Andy Cooper's art. Joe Kelly again, can't go wrong there. Some of these covers are really, really cool and inventive. And the idea of these guys who can regenerate, just cutting each other to ribbons, shooting holes into one another. It's always great. I find that I've unironically read a lot of like Deadpool Thanos, Deadpool Carnage, Deadpool, like all these other Deadpool kills Deadpool,
I
like
was
that
gonna
whole,
say Deadpool kills
like
Deadpool. Deadpool kills Marvel
yeah,
Universe. The
yeah.
Deadpool Core. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
tons. There's tons of it out
Deadpool
there.
Illustrated, where he's doing like Moby Dick and stuff
That's
like
right.
that. So they always find a way to just drop him in these scenarios, and he's always a blast. So yeah, I'm going a bit safe, but I do think this is the kind of popcorn flick issue and miniseries that fans need right now from these two.
Oh, I agree. If you didn't have this on your list, it would have been on mine. I mean, here we have the two titans of the X-Men universe, if not the Marvel universe, teaming up. I mean, because outside of X-Force, I'm not sure how much time these two characters have spent alone. So to have them to have them in the movie and now in this series, written by, to me, the man who made Deadpool the way he is. He wasn't the creator of Deadpool, but he's
Right.
the one that to me wrote Deadpool the way that everybody knows Deadpool as now, Joe Kelly.
Yeah.
That man's run on Deadpool back in the late 90s, early 2000s, still top five story arcs of all time for me. I mean, you can go back and revisit all the time. Good luck finding those back issues. That's
Gone.
how they're sought after they are. It's hard to find. It's hard to find. It's even the collected editions are kind of tough to find. It's Deadpool. Who doesn't love Deadpool? And I mean, those stories are fantastic. So to see him coming back to write Deadpool with this Wolverine flavor to tell this, I can only imagine it's going to be this off the wall story.
Yeah.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it. So, like I said, if you didn't have it on your list, it would have been on mine.
Because you got good taste.
I do. I do. I hang out with you all the time, right?
Check you out. Look at us. We're a buddy cop duo right here, right now.
That's right.
But without Deadpool and Wolverine on your list, what do you have?
Oof. But there's still plenty, guys. There are still plenty. And what I got to come, I feel like this month I kind of went with a lot of endings, a lot of endings.
Okay.
And there was a lot of good things that are ending, and one of the things that's ending, and it's going to be hard to see it go, but it's been such a good ride, and I want to bring it to your attention so that you do put it out there for everybody, because we've already talked about, I believe, issue number one, Avengers Twilight number 6,
Yes,
written by
yes.
Chip Zdarsky and Daniel Acuna. This is a lot of people are calling it the Dark Knight Returns for the Avengers. And in some ways
Interesting.
it is, in some ways it is definitely that whole trope of the heroes are retired and something pulls them back in. And the ride of this story of this, because basically after the first issue, it's Cap throwing out the Avengers Assemble to get the old band back together to put the kids in their place.
Yeah.
Because if you guys remember, it all starts with them saying, "Oh, Red Skull wasn't a bad guy. History has told the story poorly. Red Skull is not that bad of a guy." And then in the background, you got Tony Stark Jr. taking over the family business and privatizing the Avengers. All
Ah,
the while, he's trying to bring back another Avengers villain. I don't want to spoil if you haven't been reading. and now it's culminating in this final issue that it's just going to be a no holds barred. What's going to happen? Because this is one of those far future stories where now that it's ending, the ending what's going to happen? They could literally kill everybody, you know.
Yeah.
So and it's been that kind of a ride where okay, I'm expecting to see that. I'm expecting to see something harsh and vicious, but at the same time, of course, with the heroes in some way triumphant. The art has been amazing, and Chip Zdarsky, he just continues his run of just fantastic material after fantastic material. So, guys,
Yeah.
if you haven't been reading it, pick up issue 6, try to get those back issues, or just put it on your radar for that trade, because the trade is definitely is going to be coming out soon. And this, I guarantee you, will become one of those books that people always say, "Oh, you don't know much about comics, or you kind of know the Avengers, and you want to read some of the Avengers." This is one of those stories that people are going to constantly go back to, kind of like a Kingdom Come or Dark Knight Returns kind of thing. This will always be one of those stories, I guarantee you.
So this is what Scott Snyder's gonna read and believe, or Zack Snyder's gonna read and believe that all the Avengers stories are exactly like this.
This was the real Avenger story that you've been telling all the time.
Come on. What's interesting about how you've been speaking about this story is that Cap has always been depicted as a man out of time, right? Like that's the gimmick. But ironically, as we read him currently, contemporarily, he's a man in our time. He may be out of his time, but he's in our time. So we're comfortable. He may not be comfortable, we're comfortable. But in this Avengers Twilight, we're also out of time, right? We're also what's going on? Why has everything changed? Why is everything new? Why is and he's now the entry character into this weird and crazy sort of future. So I think that's kind of cool. And then the idea of like if you're talking about like Dark Knight Returns, just Captain America doing a death wish, like these damn kids, like I gotta
Exactly.
I've gotta
Exactly.
get out of retirement and clean up these streets. That's just super cool. He's incredibly old fashioned, so I'm always gonna be down with him dusting off the shield and kind of
And
getting
that's
through
exactly
what
what he
he's
does. I
doing.
mean, but what I love is the fact that even in this future, like you said, he now it's from his perspective. He's still trying to do his Cap stuff, like giving speeches. And at some points in the story, the people are like, "We don't want to hear no speeches, man. We've
Right.
heard your speeches. What are you going to do?" And it's
They've
great.
missed the part where Captain America is doing a speech and everyone's texting.
Yeah,
Right?
right.
When he's going through, he's like, it's gonna be hard for us, and you just see everyone looking down at their phone. Huh? Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
We'll meet
what?
up at the
We have to make that 120 characters. Can you
yeah,
keep it to 120 characters, please?
right, right. Yeah, no, I'm gonna check it out. To be honest, I was a bit intimidated by it because I wasn't sure what it was. In many ways, you had expressed in the beginning, kind of getting into it, and I was kind of waiting for your vote of confidence at the end of it that it was something worthwhile. Because so often we'll get into these things, and then if it's a 6 issue thing, by 5 you kind of know what the flavor. Well, 4 and 5 you kind of know what the flavor is because that's usually when the shoe drops because it's about to end. Sometimes the ending they land and they stick and they get the 10, and sometimes they're like, oh damn, we only got 1 issue left. Just blow everything up,
Well,
kind of stuff. So
I don't know. I feel the pacing of this has been like perfect, and it's a world that's so rich and so unexplored that a lot of us feel like, could you have made it 12? But I wonder if by making it 12, had they stretched it out too long, then it would have overstayed its welcome and lacked that punch.
yeah,
So by making it this 6 issue series, I think it's just honestly it's going to be Chef's Kiss. It's going to be a perfect series. So look for it,
takes a lot of
guys.
restraint. Takes a lot of restraint to be able to do something like that. To be able to,
Hmm.
say, oh, you can have 12. Let's just, lean, make
Right
this
here.
lean, make this exactly what it needs to be. My next pick is kind of an oddball one. I'm taking a chance. I'm rolling a dice, if you will. It is
Clackety
Blood
clack, clackety
Squad
clack.
7. It's Blood Squad 7, number 1, written by Joe Casey, friend of the show, and Paul
Mhm.
Fry, art by Paul Fry. And the synopsis goes, 30 years ago, Blood Squad 7 was America's most popular superhero team. Its members were seen on television, on magazine covers, scoring $1 million endorsement deals. They were celebrities and they were everywhere. But that was then and this is now. A new generation of modern day heroes takes up the mantle, or perhaps the poisoned chalice, fulfilling a promise made decades ago to be the heroes of a fractured America. While deconstructions of superhero nostalgia typically center around the classic characters of the Silver Age, Blood Squad 7 will dive deeper into the 90s comic book themes with this imagining of what would happen if heroes from that decade returned to action after a 30-year absence. And just the name, Blood Squad 7.
That's
Right, this is young blood. This is, this is every, patches and guns and blood and katanas. I don't understand how you're both a marksman and a ninja, but it doesn't matter. That era, and then parodying it. And I agree, like a lot of this is now ripe for parody. Right, we've been laughing
yes.
at the old fogey, like, hey, eat your vitamins kind of stuff, and it's like, no, this is what needs to be studied and laughed at a little bit,
Yeah.
because some of
Yeah.
the stuff that was happening in this decade is absolutely freaking bonkers, and people took the wrong messages from things being successful, and people took the wrong, hints from certain things working, and they just throttled it. They throttled it, to a point where some of those stories end up being unrecognizable now. They have to like pull all the way. Oh, matter of fact, Heroes Reborn. We're bringing back the good feelings again because,
Yeah.
damn, did we make things dour for a very very long time. So the idea that they're doing this again, Joe Casey's a legend in the game, so he also has the knowledge of what that was at that time. As far as understanding the medium and what writers were going through and what creators were going through at that time. So I love a good parody because I think a good parody needs a fundamental understanding of what you're making fun of before you make fun of it, kind of. And this is
Hmm.
this is just that. And I still find I don't expect this to be Gonzo the Boys. I expect there to be like a lesson in this, or there's something that we can learn from that time and from all that edge. It can't just be a pizza cutter at this point, all edge and no point, right? It's got to be something worthwhile. So I'm kind of stoked for it. When I saw the cover, I the first thing I thought was, why are we doing this? Does this era of comics need this? I didn't read the synopsis. I just saw the cover, so I'm like, why are we? This feels kind of old. Like, did someone say,
Hmm.
"Hey, we need to do this again"? This, because even the look, the art, all of it just screams '90s. And I was like, is this like some nostalgia thing? Are they bringing some heroes back from somewhere? So when I found out it was parody, again, in a world where we have the boys, everything under the sun, kind of poking fun at superheroes, some of a lot of people be like, oh, it's not like my superheroes in the '90s. Back in the day, we had the badasses, we had the men. Okay, well, this I feel like is gonna take a bit of a chunk out of nostalgia and laughs. So I can't wait for it.
Well, to help you out with this world that you're going to go into, Joe Casey, oof, started this entering this world with a book called Dutch, and I believe Dutch is the name or kind of a because he doesn't have the rights because you're absolutely right. This is I'm from what I've heard about this is Youngblood, but he can't use Youngblood.
Oh,
He
that's
can't,
interesting.
you know. And I believe Dutch was the miniseries that led into this, and I believe Dutch I think was the guy with the arrows, maybe.
He's the armor. He has the metal arm. He's the guy, the
Metal, oh,
super soldier, the '90s super soldier with the cybernetic arm.
there you go.
Is
I was
Dutch.
not a I was not a Youngblood fan.
Yeah.
I was one of the few people I felt in the 90s that did not fall in love with Image. I bought a ton of it because it was gorgeous.
Hmm.
You Spawn's Todd McFarlane Spawn, Jim Lee's Wildcats. Like I said, Youngblood just never. I never liked Rob Liefeld's art. I'm sorry, I just never did,
Yeah.
and it hasn't aged well.
No.
Sorry, I know so many people are
I still don't
nostalgic
think he
for
got
it.
the. I
Sorry.
still don't think he gets the joke either. Like I still don't think like
Oh, he
he's.
does. He
Yeah.
does, but he's laughing his way to the bank. He's laughing his way to the bank, and I can't hate the game. I mean, Deadpool Wolverine.
Yeah.
Um, he did one of the variant covers. He's done a ton of variant covers for other books recently. Marvel keeps giving him stuff to do, and it sells. So
And
it's
it's for
he's
his,
laughing
and it's
as
in
he
his style. They're not asking him to change
right.
anything. So why?
Exactly.
Why
So
would
he's
he?
laughing his way to the bank. If it's your thing, cool. But for me, it was never. But anyway, Image. Uh, I just never caught on to it because I read maybe 4 or 5 issues from almost everything. Remember, I don't know if you remember books like Brigade,
Mhm.
and Team Seven, stuff like that.
Yeah,
And it was I just read it and go, okay, this it's gorgeous nonsense. The
yeah,
stories were so shallow. It was so, oh my God. Yeah, so you're absolutely right. This is what they're doing with this, revisiting this world and making fun of the extremeness of it all.
yeah.
Another book that does this that you maybe want to check out if you're really into this is a book called Local Man,
I
where
saw this. This came across my thing, but I wasn't sure what it was about.
where it's about a guy who he doesn't own the rights to his own gimmick, kind of like in wrestling.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
something happens. I forget if he himself chooses to retire or he's forced to retire. But even in retire or like going away, he then can't. It's not like he can then be like, well, maybe I'll make a little bit of money or wear my costume. So he can't. He can't. I don't even think he's really even allowed to use his powers.
That's
But
hilarious.
he goes back to his hometown, and stuff starts happening there, and he's like, I'm not gonna just sit around and do nothing. So I got to do something. And he starts to be a superhero again, but no one knows who he is. Everybody has these ideas, and he's just known as like the local man. Like, oh, a local man helped save a cat from a tree. A local man helped a woman cross the street. You know, even stuff like that.
Wow.
Beat
I
up.
like
So
that.
but like if you see pictures of him in his glory, it's straight up 90s cheese where he's
Oh, it looks like
where
X. He looks like he's rocking an X-Men thing. I never understood that weird foam headpiece thing that I guess people were super obsessed with back in the day. That foam sort of.
yeah, the Shadow Star look.
Yeah, I'm like, what is? But like, I feel like half
Mhm.
of the Image characters had that thing going on,
You
and
know
he
what it was?
has it in this.
I think people it looks like boxing gear to me.
I was about to
You
say,
know,
is it headgear like wrestling?
I,
Sort of like
yeah, so I think it's like a cooler looking helmet, and they just said, "Oh, put this on. It looks cool. Looks like you're ready for battle." You know, it's just
terrible. It's not blocking
ah,
anything. That's ridiculous.
in 90s, man, the 90s. But no, I've heard nothing but good things about the Dutch series, and I've always loved Joe Casey. Going back to my man Joe Kelly, Joe Casey, Joe Kelly, those guys always work together well, and they've always done good work. Joe Casey's also doing a good job on a DC book, I hear, Neil Before Zod. So yeah, this is something that let me know if I should be picking it up because I keep
Yeah.
hearing good things about it, but I haven't touched it.
Cool, cool, cool. That will
You know?
be out on the 22nd of this month.
Oh, all right, got some time, got some time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What do you
All
got up
right.
next?
But for my next pick, we're gonna go into everybody's favorite universe that we're all eagerly anticipating the next piece to arrive. I'm picking Edge of Spider-Verse #4 because we finally get the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Spider-Woman that showed up in all her pregnant motorcycle riding glory. So here we have I'm not familiar with these writers, Nyla Magruder and Alex Segura, with artist Marcus Williams, and but I do know Salvador Larroca, classic.
Hmm.
And we finally get a story, the origin or something of an origin for this character who she just showed up in
Yeah,
across the Spider-Verse. You know, now when even though she's a Spider-Man, it's really another Spider-Woman, but it's a Spider-Woman we've never seen, you know.
right.
She looks like Misty Knight got
I
bit
think
by a
she's still
spider.
Jessica Drew too.
Yeah, I think she is. I believe she is, but she's whatever world that is, Jessica Drew, you
Yeah,
know, but we barely got to know her in the movie.
right.
So I'm excited to read about her now. Like, oh, okay, you know, the Spider-Verse series I feel have been kind of become a cash grab to the point where
Yes.
I don't pick them all up.
This
I remember
this choice surprised me actually that you picked this because I saw this and I'm like you would have avoided I thought you would have avoided all
I've
we're Spider versing it again, we're Venom versing it, what are we doing, edge of the Venom
you're
verse of the spider totems, number 5. Yeah, I was like I thought you would avoid this, but it's interesting that you picked it.
only because it's a character that I really wanted to know more about from the movie, and there wasn't enough time for it. And so seeing her show up in this, because I have not picked up every issue of this, of the Edge of the
Mhm.
Spider-Verse. I think I picked up the first one. I definitely didn't care for one of them.
The
Even
Weapon
this is
X,
now
the Weapon X
yeah,
Spider-Man thing.
Weapon X. Definitely, I think there was like a Venom one, a black. I was like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't care
yeah.
about that. But when I seen this, I was like, oh, okay. I'll give it's one issue. It's one issue. I'll give it a
Yeah, yeah,
chance.
yeah.
If it helps me better understand this character and even better prepare myself for the next movie, I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I mean, because I mean, come on, who right now isn't eagerly anticipating that next movie?
Yeah, and again, this is only seasoning to that steak, right? Until we get it.
Mhm.
And what's interesting is if you know anything about Spider-Verse, majority of the characters, or not majority of the characters, but a lot of the unique characters that you see in the Spider-Verse film series came from the Spider-Verse comic. You know, especially Spider-Gwen or Ghost Spider, which I'll never call her, but Spider-Gwen comes directly from, isn't that Edge of Spider-Verse?
That was the very first Edge of Spider-Verse miniseries, Edge of
Yeah.
Spider-Verse number two to be exact.
Yeah, and one issue, and then they flesh out that entire character, and now she is a merchandise machine, you know?
Yep.
So it's a weird irony that now they're taking someone from the movie and introducing them into the comics.
Yep.
It just kind of shows how living and breathing the continuity of this multiversal Spider-Man story is, that people are jumping from video game to movie, from from movie to game, because I did a portal opens in Spider-Man 2 and like some like side thing. It's not anything story, like no big story beats, but you get the orange rectangle thing, and I'm like, what are they doing here? But we already saw that PS5 Spider-Man was in Spider-Verse. The movie.
Yes.
So
Hmm.
again, like the idea that this is like living and breathing, but we're just not paying attention is funny to me. It's like Jessica Drew knows these people. She's come to back and forth and all that stuff. It's really funny.
I appreciate the excitement, but next time a spoiler warning, okay? I would have turned my headset off. I haven't played Spider-Man 2 yet,
No,
man.
no, no,
I
it's
haven't
fine.
played
It's
it yet.
again, it's like a side quest and nothing comes of it. But I thought it was quite interesting that they would even
Throwing
do
a rubber
that. But
band at you.
but you can see across all the Spider-Man medium, they are teasing some sort of tied universe between the Sony films, which we've tried to put in a box, and everything, and like we're cool with the video games, we're cool with the comics, but it looks like the Sony films are trying to connect absolutely all of it, even with the Spider-Verse film saying like canonical events are across the board. Like your Spider-Man is gonna lose his uncle in the video game. He's gonna lose his uncle in the comic book. He's gonna lose it in the movie. He's gonna lose it in the animation.
That's rough.
So this is just another, in my opinion, step forward in that direction of saying like this
Mm.
is ongoing and everything's connected, and this is why you should be paying attention. Again, this didn't ring my bells because I did get a bit Spider-Verse out. I didn't love Spider-Geddon, which I felt like was a too quick of a kind of turnaround cash grab Spider-Verse sequel. Um, but maybe it tickled other people's fancies, and for them, there's a lot more to there's a lot more to be had. I think they should have just killed the
It
guys
did.
they left on the radiation planet. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, you should have just ended it there. Like that should have happened.
They wanted to, but then they were all like, "Spider-Man doesn't kill. We're not supposed to do that." So they just leave him there. But I think at
I
the end of
don't gotta kill
Spider-Geddon,
you, but I don't gotta save you.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
But and then I love did it was Spider-Geddon when it ended with Miles swinging the Japanese sword?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
That was come
That
on,
was
that
pretty
was
badass.
awesome.
That was pretty
That
badass.
was
Like,
awesome. I loved it. I was like,
man,
yes, bring it
listen,
on.
sometimes, in all honesty, sometimes that's all that it's about, is that you care about it, that you dig it. That's what I mean. Like I said, comic book reading is some of the most personal things you can do. You do it in your own head, right? Uh,
That's it.
and yeah, so you can't help what you like, and you definitely can't help what you love. And boy, 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 do I love me some Damian Wayne. And I might be the only person on this planet that does, which just means more for
Def
me.
definitely in this show.
Yeah, yeah. I'm on an island. I'm on an island alone. I'm on an island alone here. But they're coming out with a pretty interesting series called The Boy Wonder, and number one comes out on the 7th. It's written and drawn by Juni Ba, And the synopsis goes, the young prince Damian Wayne was raised to be the heir of the fearsome League of Assassins, to follow in the footsteps of his deadly mother Talia and the demon head himself, his grandfather Ra's al Ghul. Ra's, sorry. But everything changed when his father, the Batman, reclaimed him and brought him to Gotham City. As Robin, young Damian suddenly discovered he was merely one of a number of princes, preceded in the role by his quote unquote brothers, Nightwing, Red Hood, and Red Robin, and Damian doesn't care to be merely anything. But when his father is forced to leave the city on urgent business, and a rash of abductions is accompanied by whispers of a demon stalking Gotham's dark alleys, Damian will find himself battling alongside his adopted brothers, and in the process, learning what the mantle of Robin really means. Visionary writer-artist Juni Ba makes his mark on the timeless story of Batman and Robin, synthesizing the character's complex history into an accessible and heart-rending fairy tale. Like I said, I love Damien. It took me a very long time to understand each flavor of Robin, but they all have their own unique flavor. Obviously,
They
people
do.
like some more than others, but like for a very long time, I had like no love for Tim Drake, and then I read a lot of Tim Drake, and I was like, wow, this guy is the guy who actually chose to be Robin. Of all the Robins, he's the only one that
Hmm.
could have been like, nah, y'all good, yeah, y'all could, y'all could do the whole war on crime. You're not my dad. You're not my adopted dad. You're not the guy who found me stealing tires from the Batmobile. I have a loving family. I'm a genius. I can go to college and I can kick rocks, and all the women love me. And in some cases, some of the guys love me. But
And I figured out Bruce Wayne was Batman in like 4 seconds.
yeah, so like him choosing to be Robin was a big, like, after I read and whatever, big deal. But I something just feels right about Robin being his actual son. And I something about the characterization of the character of Damian Wayne being like the person to challenge Bruce is something I've always found interesting. And I like when the boys get together. I like when the boys get together, when Damian and Dick and Jason, and they always digging shots at each other. You're the one that died, you're the
Yeah.
one in the skin tight, outfit doing jumping jack and was only talking about your ass, stuff like that. You're the little kid terrorist or whatever. Like I love the dick because it's all love. These guys are the
Of course.
only ones. These guys are the only ones that know what it's like to live under Batman's rule, to live under Bruce Wayne's rules and live in the mansion and deal with all that. So the idea that the cat's gonna be away and the mice are gonna play, is interesting for me. And the idea that I just think that this character, as I said on multiple episodes of this video series, needs another definitive story. Needs another, sort of like this is the Damian Wayne story. This is his Rose Gallery kind of thing. It feels like they've been waffling a lot with him. They made him fight his father for a while. There was a storyline, and I only know this because I'm one of the few people that follow this character. Right? There was a storyline where Damien and I'm sorry, Bruce and Slade are fighting because Slade is saying that he might actually be Damien's father. And so there's a bit of that. There's a whole fight about that. I think it's called Deathstroke versus Batman or something like that. This is recent.
Damn,
This is like,
Talia was good.
yeah, yeah, Um, and so like, and all of that, like the idea that he was trained to be a killer and has to be constantly pulled back on his leash. He's like 7. That's interesting as hell to me as well. But yeah, like I totally didn't like this new rebranding where they gave him the gray and the red, and they kind of like just pushed him to the side, and they they kind of forgot about him, and a lot of people have done that recently. Yeah, he's not rocking the green, yellow, and red anymore. He's rocking gray and red, and it's not
Gray and
anything where I'm
red.
like, it's not
I
anything
wasn't
where I'm
aware.
like, wow, that's cool. That's the direction he should be going in. It felt like a Drake or a Rick Grayson.
Oh, Rick Grayson. There you go. That's
You
what I
know,
was thinking.
yeah, it felt like one
Hmm.
of those where I'm
Was
like,
was that part of Lazarus, the tournament, the Lazarus tournament, and then they had like there was like Lazarus Planet. Was that when that happened?
I can't remember specifically, but I know that he was given a girlfriend, Flatline, I want to say is her name or something like that. And I think she kills him at one point, rips his heart out of his chest, and then brings him back to life. Which was what love is.
That's that sounds like the Lazarus thing
Yeah.
that they did recently in DC. Yeah,
It
yeah.
sounds like it's what love is. I don't expect this to be a multi-issue story. I hope it's quick, clean, and it is what it is. But For all those that may not be humongous fans of Damien, hopefully this can woo you. And even if it doesn't, my boy showing up in Brave and the Bold anyway. So y'all better get ready. Y'all about to get cinematic Damian Wayne for the very first time in the history. All the rest have been done. We've done live action Jason Todd and Titans. We've done live action Dick Grayson and Batman and Robin and Batman Forever, where he's doing the laundry
The
food or
laundry,
whatever.
kung fu laundry.
That's what I
Yeah.
was
Oh
trying to
my
come up.
god.
That's what I was trying to come up with the name of it. But the Kung Fu
Woo.
Laundry. Dick Grayson also just appeared in Titans not too long ago in that show.
But when have we ever gotten a Tim?
He was live action in Titans. Again, I guess if a tree
He was
falls, right? Yeah.
wait, no, that was Tim Drake was in Titans?
Yeah, masked and
Oh, I didn't know
everything.
that. I didn't know that. I didn't know
Robin
that.
R.
I didn't know that.
It was in an absolute horrible season of Titans. It was the Red Hood season of Titans, where it really really bad characterization across the board made me jump off of the show. I actually haven't seen this last season with Brother Blood, but yeah, man, it could just. I need some good Damien in my life, and this is why I've picked
All right.
I've picked this story.
No, I'll be honest with you. I just wanted to bust your chops earlier. I do
Oh
like the
yeah,
character of Damian Wayne. Damian Wayne is very intriguing. Though I believe Grant Morrison, I believe, created Damian Wayne
yes, Son of
during
the Demon.
during yes. And I even when he was Nightwing's Robin,
So good.
that story was so good. And I loved when when the Joker first encounters him. And the
Hmm.
Joker's just treating him like a regular Robin, like, oh, I kill you guys by the dozen. You guys never do anything to me. He's like, I'm not that kind of Robin.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like I will kill you.
right.
So
This is the
no,
guy. This is the
Damien,
guy like they like beat up Nightwing and was like, "Yeah, I know he trained you like his son, but I am his son." And I'm like, God,
right?
what are we doing here? Like, this is
Damn.
yeah, this is But then also like they write him so hard in the beginning that any ounce inch of heartfelt and it's a gallon, right? Like when
Hmm.
if he were to hug Dick or call Pennyworth Alfred, or whatever. At one point, I can't remember what it was. I can't remember the exact story, but they Batman's missing, and they put up they turn off
The bat
Gordon
signal.
turns off the bat signal, and you just see like a word voice bubble in the back, like put it on, put it back on, and it cuts, and it's Damien, and he's like, put it on, please. Like, like, and I'm like, oh, little kid, he just wants his dad back. So it's all that kind of stuff. And I know that's what it's going to be. I know it's going to start off with him being like, I don't want to be Robin number 4. Like I'm not this guy you
Right.
just throw the suit around in. Like I'm the actual authentic article here. And I'm not just going to take up another mantle, and he's going to learn to love it. And Robin was a character I had to learn to love. I was poorly educated by film to believe that this character is a throwaway character that's not really doesn't really hold a big impact on Batman, and that's just wrong. It always has
No,
been wrong
absolutely,
for absolute
absolutely, and
decades.
just
He has.
the greatest sidekick of all time,
Yeah,
easily, and the only sidekick to graduate and be
yeah,
prominent by even one of your past picks when you talk about Nightwing.
yeah,
I mean, what other sidekick has maintained over 300 issues of his own book? None.
yeah. That's true. I was saying
So
absolutely none. Spider Boy ain't doing
none.
that. He ain't up to 300 yet.
He's close. I think he's at like 7. He's almost there.
They
He's
didn't do
almost
the
there.
legacy numbering, bro, because he's been
No,
around. You know what I'm saying? He's
oh
been
yeah, he's
around
been
for a minute.
forever. He just forgot about him. He just forgot about him. He just
He
forgot
should
about
have
him.
been
That's
at
right.
300 at this point.
Yeah, easily 400 easily. All right, but speaking of characters that are hard to love, but written so eloquently, on my pick is not just an issue, but the entire series. Well, the entire first part of the series, The Penguin, by Tom King.
Ooh,
Yes, Tom King, and here's that name again, Chip Zdarsky.
gang, gang.
I told and drawn by Rafael De La Torre, Steven Subic, and Belen Ortega. We all know when you think of a maxi series, as they like to refer to them, we usually like a 12-issue series that really delves deep into a character. One of the guys that has made a living and a killing at this is Tom King. If you've read Vision, you've read Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, as well as Mr.
Mr.
Miracle.
Miracle.
Great
Bro, I
stories. Tom
opened
King
Mr.
did what,
Miracle the other day. That first page, him in the bathroom. I was like, how did they get away with it? I've already read it before, but just looking at it again and how visceral it is,
and it still catches you. It's just
I
like,
was like,
whoa,
whoa, come
yeah.
on, like trigger warning, something here. But again, that's why I just wanted to say that real quick.
No, but you're right. You're right, and that's what Tom King is great with taking characters who are lesser known, right? Who was reading Mr. Miracle before that series?
I didn't know that, man.
You know what I mean?
I knew, I like,
Vision.
I bring in Big Barda, and he's her plus one. That's how I know Mr. Miracle.
Exactly. Exactly. The Vision. Not only did he make us give a damn about the Vision, but he made the Vision have a whole family that we fell in love with in a
That's
span of
now
12
being
issues.
replicated in live action a little bit here, you know,
Yes, it
and my
is.
even
Yes, it
more with
is.
this whole Vision Quest stuff. So yeah,
Yep. Yeah. So here we have the Penguin, who I'm not quite because I'm not the DC guy, but when a good story comes around, I do pay attention. But apparently, I'm like because I'm not sure if this is in continuity, but the Penguin has lost his prominence in the crime world. He lost
hmm
control of his base of operations. He's basically a regular guy now, and his kids have taken over his part of the Gotham crime scene. But the
hmm
U.S. government now comes along to him and says, "Look, we need your help." And
Penguin the
Penguin,
Informant.
right?
What?
But
Come
it's
on,
Penguin,
Oswald. Don't
but it's
snitch.
Penguin. Well, it's that's and that because what I like of that Tom King is showing us with this series is that Penguin is not is one, he's not a snitch, and two, that the dude is smarter than we've realized. He's not
Yeah.
the don't get me wrong, I love his depiction back in the day in the Adam West show that who didn't love it, but he's not just this caricature that wants to be part of the crime scene. The dude is vicious. The dude is
Yeah.
vicious. He's methodical. He comes up with these crazy schemes, and more than anything, the guy likes money.
Yeah.
So now that he has this opportunity, okay, I can screw over my kids, who it seems like they screwed him over. I can get my base of operations back, and he's got a girlfriend, and the girlfriend likes money. So he's
Yeah.
like, okay, and you're gonna help me get my money, and it's all gonna be on the government's dime. Yeah, yeah, let's make this happen. Let's get this done. So it's Tom King doing this maxi series that features a really a joke villain of Batman, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm gonna capture you in my aviary of doom and
Right.
stick
Right.
a giant ostrich on you. Like, come on, really?
My hypnotizing umbrella or
My
whatever.
hypnotizing umbrella, right? You know what I mean? Like, come on, come on. Exactly. And this is a perfect thing for those of you who really loved the last Batman movie,
Mhm.
the Batman,
The
right?
Batman.
And got a taste of what's that
Colin
actor's name?
Farrell.
Colin Farrell's Penguin, who his mini series on HBO is set to debut soon. If you're into
Yeah.
that, I guarantee you a lot of that is going to probably reflect this. So if you end up liking that Penguin and want a little bit more, pick up this Tom King book. This is volume 1, and volume 2 will probably be out in another couple months.
I think I can't remember. I believe I tried to catch up on Batman. And in the back issues of Batman, there's a story with Catwoman where she is tasked after the perceived death of Penguin to seek out his heirs so that they can get the inheritance. I some
There you
robot,
go.
some robot makes him do it. Some like android. It's like an android lawyer. I can't remember who exactly it is. Some very strange character. But basically, he's like, "I'll give you $1 million, Selena." Selena's like, "Oh, fuck $1 million," whatever. And every time she goes to one of the kids' things, they're dead. Like he apparently had like 8 kids across the world, and they all just start to die, except for the people you're talking about, the children that you're talking about. And
Okay.
then even then something happens. And so Selena's like, what the hell was this wild goose chase for? If all this were, if all this ended up this way, and finds Oswald working at a flower shop as a regular ass dude. So she shows up and they kind of have a powwow, and he's kind of like, yeah, I just want to. She's like, I was gonna let the kids fight over the money, like like I just, you're not gonna tell on anyone. Well, are you? And she was like, no, I
Mm.
mean, you're good or whatever. And when you think about how
But
that they go way back to Batman '66 and stuff, Catwoman, Penguin,
yeah.
old friends, old
Right, yeah.
friends. But yeah, I vaguely remember the story that you're talking about, and because I'm a Red Hood fan, there was actually a story where Red Hood shot Penguin in the face, and it was perceived that he was dead. He did. He shot him in the face, in like in front of the Supreme Court or whatever in Gotham. And yeah, and like dead blanket to the face, and then Batman shows up. Batman shows up and beats the living hell out of Jason Todd, saying, like you know the one rule, you know what you're not supposed to do and not supposed to do here. Busts his helmet open and whatever, and then all of a sudden, like red smoke appears, and Jason is whisked away, and you look, and it's Roy Harper, his old buddy Arsenal. And I'm like, oh, my boys,
The
Arsenal, Red Hood and Arsenal, trouble,
two
the
troubled
troublemakers,
teenagers.
the troublemakers. I love that they're friends, man. I love that they're cool like that. But
I
yeah,
mean, it makes sense. It makes sense.
totally does. Quite literally, Roy's the redheaded stepchild. Like he's quite
They're like
literally
they're like
red.
the Jay and Silent Bob of the DC universe.
Yeah.
Two
So
troublemakers just causing crap.
yeah, and I wonder. There's always been this idea that villains are more interesting than heroes. That there's always been that idea, and I think that's why some of this stuff works, where you have a Joker film make $1 billion, right? And now
Mhm.
people want to see this Penguin series, and how do you rise up into these ranks? You think of anti-heroes we've watched before, between Tony Soprano to all the way to Walter White, right? Guys we probably shouldn't be rooting for, but because we're watching the story from their perspective, all right, like I totally see
That
where you're
makes sense.
coming from
I
with
can
this.
understand. And who and a recent one, Magneto.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So people are really starting to get that sort of anti-hero flair from some of this stuff, and not seeing it as so black and white. Um, and ironic that you picked a villain-led comic, because that's actually my next pick. I'm going with Doom #1. Comes out
Oh,
on May 15th. And I'm like, Doom #1, okay, people have done Doom before. And then I saw Jonathan Hickman. And I said, all right. And then I saw Valeria Richards. And I said, nope, shut the shop down. I love Hickman's Doom. I love Doom and Valeria, probably under Hickman majority, right? I just love
hmm.
that weird relationship that those two have. Um, I think it's absolutely hilarious. Hickman is coming off of, he's still doing Ultimate Spider-Man. He just is Gods done yet? God should
It
be
well
wrapping up.
that was almost one of my picks. Was God is #8. This month
Okay,
it wraps up.
Okay, so this month it wraps up. And so the premise is, in the near future, Doom alone must save the Marvel Universe. Legendary creators Jonathan Hickman and Sanford Green, who did work on Bitterroot, send Doctor Doom on a journey unlike any he's undertaken before. With Valeria Richards by his side, Doom goes on a quest to harness more power than any human has ever wielded before, in order to try to stop Galactus from bringing about the death of the universe. So a very prominent Fantastic Four story, the first, right? Like the first major big, we like, he's impending, he's coming. He's here. What are
Right.
we gonna do about it? Kind of stuff. To see Doom in that seat is gonna be really interesting. And again, Doom with the lone wolf and cub of it all, right? Doom, this
Yeah.
cold, quite literally cold, metallic, demon sorcerer man, and this very, very intelligent, precocious, little girl who doesn't see him as a monster, who doesn't see him
Well,
as a warlord or a tyrant. I can't wait.
you
What
got
do
to
you think
remember
about this?
he birthed her, right?
Yes, he
He's the
did.
one that he birthed her. That's her
Uncle,
godfather.
Uncle
But
Doom.
she called him Uncle Doom, but it's her godfather.
Yeah, yeah,
And Doom has always loved and respected her, right? Because he's like, yo, I brought you into this world, and I respect your intelligence, and you're a tenacious little girl, and you see me for more than just this metal armor. And
yeah,
now to see them be like you said, this lone wolf and cub, this little dynamic duo that's going to, and what I love is it's a one shot.
yeah.
It's Jonathan Hickman telling a big story in one tight issue. Because again, if you didn't pick this, this was one of my picks.
Oh, it's good to know
And
that I'm getting better taste now, and
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
I'm getting on the bus.
No, but it's great. It's great. I love it. I love it. And this art, when I first saw the art, I thought it was Daniel Warren Johnson because
Ah,
Sanford
yeah,
Green's art is very similar to it. And I was like, ooh. And then when I said, oh, but it's not. And the Sanford Green, I've heard about Bitterroot. I've heard Bitterroot is a fantastic book. So to see something like this being told with Doom, Jonathan Hickman, it looks like an amazing story. I was hyped about this months ago when they announced it. I posted about this months ago on our Facebook page
awesome.
when they first just announced it. I was like, oh, here we go. And now that it's finally coming out, I'm itching. I am itching. This is definitely going to be at the top of my read list
Do you think
for
they
that
do
week.
the kids? You think they do the kids MCU, or do we
I
wait? Do
want
we wait?
I mean I don't want it rushed. I don't want this rushed. There's no reason to fly into it. I don't need to see the kids. If the movie's done right, that's the sequel. You know,
Yeah,
you end the first movie with her being pregnant or something, you know.
they're not twins, right?
Since no, no, no.
Okay.
Franklin's older than her. I want to say like by like 3 years, maybe
Yeah.
something like that. Um, there's no reason to rush it. You know, don't we don't need to have the whole Fantastic Family future foundation. We don't need it off the bat. Even though I know this seems like they're gonna come from an alternate universe because it's gonna take place in the 60s somehow. So
Yeah.
it's probably gonna be some time travel aspect, universe jumping, but introducing all of that and on top of that being like, oh, you hear the kids.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and you got to think that if Hickman has this one issue, he can't fill it with infographics and maps and all this kind of stuff. He's got to
nope.
get it done in one go. You got to think that's got to be a hell of a fun challenge for a creative like him, who's known for kind of incredible world building. And yeah, this is I miss his Hickman and Valeria. I mean, his Hickman and Valeria, his Doom and Valeria. So this to me feels like a very welcome return.
Oh, heck yeah. And I'm hoping that this is kind of the prologue to what's to come for him next because his Gods is wrapping up. I don't know how long he's going to do Ultimate Spider-Man for. I can see him doing it for a year, you
Mhm.
know. So where will this lead to? And considering that Gods is this epic retelling of the cosmos of the Marvel universe, and Doom is at the end of the Marvel universe, it looks like at this story. Will he then go on to tell what's going to happen in between to go from Gods to this? There's so much to do, and Hickman is such a creative genius. The stories that he tells, it- there's so much that he can do with this. Unbelievable things he can do with this.
Yeah, and again, I'm here for all of it.
All of it, all of
What
it.
is your last pick for May?
Well, my last pick was one book and then the other, and then I'm kind of going back and forth on
Okay.
this. I'm kind of going back and forth on it because one is again another end to a story, and
Hmm.
the other is the beginning of something new. And I'll be honest with you, and we're making this up on the fly, y'all, on the fly for you guys. The
Superfly.
I totally forgot that this was on my mind. But then during the course of this story of this video, I realized I was like, oh no, how did I forget about this book? But this one book that I really haven't talked about at all on this channel, but it's I don't want to say finally because I hate to say finally, but I do love when great stories come to an end. And this one is by Jason Aaron. It's Once Upon a Time at the End of the World. Have you heard about that one?
Hmm. I don't think so. I like Jason Aaron though. I followed his whole
He's been
Thor.
telling he's yes. Jason Aaron to me, it's weird. Jason Aaron to me was like the one of the premier writers for a long time, and I still think he is. But it kind of
Hmm.
just feels like he's gone away
Wavering.
almost.
Yeah.
Not wavering, he's just gone away,
Well,
but
he did that
he
Avengers run. With, is that widely received? The Avengers he did.
I enjoyed it for the most part. I enjoyed it. I felt it was tied a lot of his it was editorial requirements that kept tying his run into what was going on in the major Marvel universe, and constantly getting tied into big events.
Mm.
And so it kind of sputtered almost at the end, but I dug it. I think it's going to hopefully be widely remembered, but on a whole, no. When Jason Aaron, when you think of his Thor run, you think of Scalped. If you've ever read his Vertigo stuff, that's one of the most brutal books I've ever read. That just tears your heart out and stomps all over it, and then says, "Here, you still should love this."
Right.
Because it's so harsh of a story. And now we have the story Once Upon a Time at the End of the World. It's number 15. It's the story's over. The end of the world happens. And it's all about people now living in this end of the world Mad Max kind of landscape. And what
Dystopian
happens is
future
these
kind of stuff, huh?
dystopian future where the world is ending, like, and there doesn't seem much hope of saving it. So it's just a
Mm.
matter of like, how can you gracefully die in this world? And what do two people end up finding in this world? They find love. They find love.
Uh-huh.
But and you would have, like, when I was first reading this book, you would have thought, okay, so how is this gonna beautifully end? How is this love story gonna end? The love story, spoilers, kind of ends like issue 5.
Oh,
And then you're
wow.
like, but there's
What's
10 more
left?
issues
Yeah.
to go. Like, what's going on here? So you're still going through the story now with like two people who obviously still love each other. They're still living in this horrible landscape of this dystopian future, but they're also growing old in it now.
Yeah.
So because the story starts that they're relatively young. I want to say they're probably like in their early 20s. And now we're at the end of the story. We're like, okay, they're like in their 40s, 50s. And now we're seeing how this story ends, how it's going to conclude. And it's just been heart-wrenching. It's this heart-wrenching story because nothing, this is like, I felt like this is like Nicholas Sparks for comic book fans.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah, I
it's like
mean, we
it's a
found
love
love. What is
story
it? What's the
that,
line? We found love in a hopeless place. You know what I'm saying? That,
yeah, and that's what's happening with the story. And that's like, books like this make me go, how don't people give Jason Aaron more love right now? And
yeah.
just like, read this. The first 2 volumes are out. The third volume will obviously come out quickly after this. It's drawn beautiful by Nick Dragata and Leila De Luca, written by him. Ariel Olivetti does a lot of the covers. It's a great book. And like I said, if you love like stuff like The Notebook, but you also love Mad Max, give this book a shot. It's great.
I need a good gut punch. I think I'm gonna check this out this weekend. I think I'm gonna search this out and at least try to get a couple of issues in. Um, a little bit of it reminded me of the journey that we went on with Ascender and Descender. This idea that we would start off with characters at a certain age, and then quite literally the world explodes. Like things go awry, and then the building back up of civilization and how do you find love? How do you find family and community after everything is gone? Is even worth building that stuff back up if things can go awry again and then get everything taken away from you. I very much like that idea in fiction in general. This idea that even in the darkest, tunnels, you still have to kind of make that fire. It's up to you to kind of, find the silver lining or the love or the happiness. You can be found anywhere if you look hard enough. It's quite easy to give up. It just is. I've
Yeah.
done it. I think we've all done it at a certain point. But if you really care about this world and you care about things like love and empathy and humanity, those things are always going to stick with you, and you're always going to try. And the idea that you have these two people that just try, they just try. I think that's what we're all doing, right? We're all just freaking trying. Some in more dystopian, in more dystopian areas than others. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna check that out. I'm definitely gonna check that out. You talking about Nicholas Sparks for comic book readers. I'm going back to my well, and we're talking about some horror for some comic book readers. I'm back. Farrell's back. Farrell issue number 3. Tony Fleeks and Tone Rodriguez. I've been reading this series so far, and it's hilarious because I remember I'm reading the beginning of it, and again, absolute gorgeous cutesy art. There's a car crash, and bloody, like jagged metal and glass. And I'm just like, I forgot that this was gonna get turned so dark so quick or whatever. But yeah, where it goes, the level of gratuitous violence in it, these are things that were kind of displayed in Stray Dogs. But yeah,
Mhm.
just this idea that uh this like this virus and where it starts and how it starts and why everyone is in the position that they are in is super interesting. And I've not come back here with a return issue, but this is something that I am reading and I am enjoying. And interestingly enough, and I have to look through again. Oh, yes. You had mentioned earlier in this episode Local Man. Local Man is written by Tony Fleeks, the guy who does Stray Dogs and the guy who did Feral. So immediately like, yeah, go check out Local Man. And I type it in like, yep, I'm checking out Local Man. Because I know one of the creators behind it. I am a stickler for what I call commitment to the bit. Something knowing what they are and just kind of never shying away from it, never feeling like it has to explain itself, never feeling like you have to apologize. And I feel like this series is kind of that. Like you're gonna dig it or you'll hate it, but it is exactly what it wants to be. It is exactly what Tony wants it to be, and it looks exactly how Tone Rodriguez wants it to look. And as we've talked about with stuff like Daniel Warren Johnson's work on Dual Powerbomb or even Transformers, the art leads a lot of this. Yeah, dialogue is great and the story is good, but the art is what invokes the emotion, whether it's or oh my god, you know, it's all there and it's
Yep.
all there with Pharaoh #3. It comes out on May 22nd, so it's a bit later in this month, but I think it's definitely worth picking up. But you would have to go back and read the first two issues to do so. But I think it's gonna be. I don't know if he's now making the cinematic universe or what. I don't know what's going on
Uh,
now with all these dog books, but quite funny.
no, and the guy keeps pumping them out because not only the books you mentioned already, there's also Uncanny Valley, which I believe
Yeah,
we talked about. We've talked about. Uncanny
yeah,
Valley
yeah.
is another one that's just killing it. Yeah, Tony Fleeks is making a name for himself. He knows his niche, and that niche loves him because, like you just said, if you want to read Pharaoh's #3, you got to find issues 1 and 2, and good luck. Although they are doing, I believe, a third printing already of the first issue and a second printing of the second issue. The
Yeah,
book is a lot of fun. We had a blast talking about Stray Dogs. I look
yeah.
forward to us eventually doing coverage on Ferals because I would love to. I'm gonna wait for the trade. I want if I'm gonna have to go through a gut punches of watching cats kill each other and become zombies, I need to do it in one shot. I'm a
Right.
cat guy. I can't go month to month watching these cutesy little cats get mutilated by
Yeah,
by
yeah, yeah.
by this new zombie rabid rabies world that they're unfortunately going through. I'll need therapy on a weekly basis. So I'm just
Right.
gonna take it one time in one solid trade. Even though there's talk, the thing is this is an ongoing series. So it could
Oh,
go
wow.
12, 18, 24 issues. This
I
is
just
this is
you said
torture.
that
This
I
is
just fast
torture.
forward. My mind just fast forwards to Walking Dead, right? Like
Right.
it's just
Is there gonna
you get
eventually be a Negan cat that
one
shows
armed
up?
cat, one armed cat. This is a dictatorship, and going
Right.
through going through. We're the pharaoh now, you know.
I'm trying to
And
imagine like what weapon would a cat use to beat another cat over the head with?
oh yeah, it has to be some
Like,
sort of stick it can hold in its mouth or tied to its
uh,
back or something like that.
you
Um,
know,
But yeah, good stuff. Great art. I'm glad people are talking about it. I don't
yeah,
know how niche it is in general. I think the premise and the artwork is very non-typical if you're looking about picking up a comic. My sister would pick this up and then be horrified once she got to some of the parts in it. Because
I
again,
wasn't expecting this. I mean,
this is
a
it. It
big,
looks like Balto.
big.
It looks like Oliver and Company. It looks like everything.
Yes,
All dogs go to heaven. It looks like every cartoon dog cat thing ever. So
yeah. If you
that would
stick,
bring
I
her in and
believe,
then
if you
mess her
stick
up.
if you stick to the cover A's, I believe, which are the main
Mhm.
covers, um, it looks like that. It looks just cutesy and friendly. But all the variant covers, not all of them, but a huge chunk of them are homages to classic
Yeah,
horror posters. So look for
yeah,
those for the collectors, and also if you want to know exactly what you're getting into, because like I think the first issue had a Nightmare on Elm Street
yeah.
homage, and I think issue 2 had a Halloween homage. So
I think
yeah,
issue 3
yeah,
has Terrifier. I think there's a dog with a Terrifier mask on. there, and I was like, oh wow,
Ooh,
that is a
here's a
look there.
clue as to what you're getting into, folks.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, go ahead and check out Feral number 3. And also, come on, this show is the clue of what you're getting into, what comic books are getting into, what comic book media is getting into. We have been calling our shot on some of these books, and they have skyrocketed, whether it's in price or popularity. Even some of the dark horses that we've picked up, we got some good taste, and hopefully you guys do too. Don't ever feel free to mention in the comments books that you guys have read that you think other people should be talking about. I, besides media, conversations like this and just the idea of passing around this, this content is my love language. This is how I tell people I care about them, is to say this book made me feel good or bad, and you should feel good or bad. Um, so we do this all as a labor of love for you guys each and every month, and we go and read those issues. So if you guys are reading anything that we haven't mentioned, go ahead and list it in the comments below. But we'll be here checking out all these books, and we'll be back next month for June. I can't believe half the year is going to be over soon. And again, it doesn't matter because I'm only living for these previews. I'm going month to month, baby. So keep giving me a reason to live. Keep publishing these comics.
Yes,
So we can talk about them each and every week. We do the major previews video series absolutely free of charge. So if you guys want to consider helping us in any way, first, as you know, free of charge as well. You can like, share, and subscribe. Obviously liking and subscribing will let you guys know when these videos come out as soon as possible. And then, if you're able to share us, you just grow our audience, and I want this to be a collaborative conversation. I love talking to the cog here, but if you guys, if we're missing, I feel like we might have a blind spot or two, maybe My Little Pony 59 is killing it and we're not talking about it because, we needed to get your guys' insight on stuff like that. Cause we do have sight beyond sight, but what's beyond sight? What's beyond sight? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's the shadowy place? We don't go there. So, so like I said, consider helping us out. Yeah, consider helping us out by sharing us to friends, other comic readers, and stuff like that. And you can help us out monetarily by going to patreon.com/CBC Clubhouse, where for as little as 10 cents a day, $3 a month, you help us keep our lights on here and afford the hardware and the software we need to keep producing content free of charge. If for whatever reason you found this series and don't know that we do a podcast, we do the Major Issues podcast, and it drops every single Thursday. We're over 320 episodes currently covering the latest and greatest things to come to comic books and comic book media. This allows us to look into the future, and then we sit in our long form podcast. Yes, I know, even longer form than this, and talk about whatever topic we have of the week. We are currently in anime, so we'll be talking about anime adaptations to our favorite comic book characters. We just finished covering Rise of Technovore, Avengers Confidential, Black Widow, and Punisher is up next, and we might have to cover Batman Ninja. Well, we're gonna talk about it, but yeah, bro. I'm the guy that's like, there's no such thing as bad Batman content. Oh, but you can go ahead and check out how we feel about that and how we feel about these books. I'm still gonna try to find a way. Maybe we do a mid-year wrap up or a half-year wrap up where we talk about how we felt about some of these picks and whether we continued to read any of these books. But I think it would be cool to give the fans a bit of it's almost like one of those reality shows, like where are they now? Kind of,
Yeah, definitely.
So that's something that we'll be definitely talking about. But the only way you can find out if we actually do it is to watch these video series. So like I said, consider helping us out monetarily. Help us out by pure engagement. Be a participant. You can go to our TeePublic shop and you can get exclusive merchandise like what the Cog is wearing right there. And we actually have a brand new shirt out right now that TeePublic themselves are actually sending me a sample of. So hopefully I'll be modeling it soon. They want me to be a part of a partner program or something over there. So yeah. Well, like I said, things are growing, baby. Comicbookclick.com is blowing up. We're doing everything we can over there. And as you guys know, Facebook.com/comicbookclick, Instagram @comicbookclick, and always use that hashtag comicbookclick to talk about the newest, hottest, latest, and greatest things to come to comic books and comic book media. People, stay alive. We got stuff to live for, and we got more previews coming down. So, My name is George Serrano, aka The Don.
And I'm Alex Garcia, aka The Cog.
And this has been Major Previews, always looking towards the future. And always remember that you, yes, you, are worthy.